Hello, we're here at IBS 2026. I'm here with Sean Shields. So much here at the show to look at. How's the show going for you?
This show is amazing. Every year I'm kind of blown away by just the diversity that is here. I mean, everything from like faucets to like granite to, again, structures.
Yes.
There really isn't anything about housing that isn't covered at this show.
Absolutely. We're right across from a massage chair booth. And so we need to take a few more breaks, I think. And maybe we should have done the episode just
relaxing.
reclining.
I could use it.
Well, good. I know you've been given some educational sessions on everything from floor trusses to some of the multifamily things. Tell us a little bit about what you've been presenting and how the SDCA is being represented here.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. This has been many years in the process of building relationships within NAHB and with their partners to try to find a platform within this enormous structure to talk about building components and what component manufacturers can do. And I have to say that this year is a great example of that coming to fruition.
Great.
I think in total we had 9 sessions focused exclusively on structural building components. I think that's unheard of. Some of the sessions I was directly involved in, we started off really just talking about Offsite. And I asked all the builders in the room, like, raise your hand if you use trusses. And maybe there were 25 people that raised their hands. They put their hands down and I said, how many of you are doing Offsite? 2 people raised their hand, right? And it really, it brings that to light that most of these builders, they don't think about trusses as Offsite. And so we have a lot of work cut out for us in educating them of like, that is just the first step towards Offsite. You should be comfortable with it because you're already made it part of your core process. So if you're already working with a component manufacturer, what does it look like to work with them on floor trusses? What does it look like to work with them on wall panels? We did a session yesterday afternoon where we were talking about what does it look like to go all in with one component manufacturer from the peak of the roof down through the foundation, by the trusses and the panels, and how that opens up this ability to do really quality value engineering. When you have one entity controlling all of the data for that structure, you can make a lot of decisions about like where do we have those load paths line, how can we take material out, but also talking about it from the standpoint of efficiency, right? Then all of those things are made to precisely fit together. They're all delivered in stages when the framer needs them. They go together quickly and you can really reduce cycle times. Yeah. So that's really a lot of the conversations we've been having, both in the education sessions and just walking around talking to builders on the show floor, is really about that efficiency, that time savings. I sat in on a session with a gentleman by the name of Scott Saddam. He's had this consulting company for a really long time, where he's gone to individual builders and talking to them about like, builders need to understand their true costs. Yeah. And it's really evident that most builders either don't know how to figure out their true costs or don't bother with it, right? It's just the cost of doing business. Yeah. And so for us to deliver that message of like, if you really know your true costs, that upfront cost of this manufactured product really does pencil against, stick frame, that stick frame package, if you incorporate all those other things into it.
It's easy to look at that material line item cost and then start comparing it with something way down the line with,
right.
And you forget about all the labor, all the days that something goes wrong and it rains and there's muddy job site.
And job site safety and theft and waste removal. And that list goes on, all the supervisory time they spend going back to the job site to see whether or not the framing crew fixed the thing that they tagged that needed to get fixed before they have the framing inspection. Oh, it wasn't fixed. The framing inspector was supposed to come in, but now they can't come in. So then they're like, well, I'll come back in 3 weeks. Like all of those delays that are kind of considered normal or just the cost of doing business. It's like, well, our industry can really help reduce a lot of those things happening, which can really, over time, reduce the overall cost of that project. So, that's really the message that we're constantly bringing. I think the other big message that we're bringing is that the component manufacturing industry has had so much investment made in it. You guys know this in spades. It's like just tens of billions of dollars have been thrown into this industry, both from a technological standpoint and from a capacity standpoint. So even if they went into wall panels 10 years ago and tried it, it didn't work all that great.
A lot has changed.
There is so much that has changed. The wall panel you would get out of a manufacturer today is so drastically different. The floor trusses are so different. Like even the capability of designing roof trusses I think that's one of the other big challenges we face. There's a lot of custom home builders here that are members of NAHB and come to a show like this. I mean, they're looking at all the flashy, big custom windows and all that kind of stuff, right? Most of the time they have this perception that, well, the more cut up the roof, the less trusses work. When it's really the exact opposite. The more cut up your roof is, the more you really want to apply those engineering principles and use that design software to design something that's very efficient. Right? And so that's another message that we're trying to push back against that misperception. And this is a great place to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, what is something that component manufacturers can do to make it easier for builders to use their products and to see and get visibility into what they're doing?
It's a great question. I mean, I think that's something that we're still continually trying to figure out, what's the right message to bring to builders that change their mindset. Because again, they're very much focused on the bottom line, and they have to be, right? But it is changing their perspective from thinking about, we just represent material and labor, and that's all we represent. So I think that's a challenge for most component manufacturers who want to expand their business with their builders. It's figuring out, how do we get that conversation to move beyond just those two cost centers, and to think more holistically about, again, all-in costs, but also thinking about, where do they want to go? What do they want to achieve? In some cases, the builder will push, hey, I want wall panels, because they're having so many labor constraints on the job site, and they think that's how I fix that, right? And really, that's an opportunity for the component manufacturer to say, yes, and you should really utilize us for the entire structural framing, because if you're dealing with labor constraints, let's just take that off the table for you and create the most efficient process possible for your on-site labor. Because these days, it really doesn't matter where it is. That on-site labor is really the greatest constraint. So the more you can create a efficient and buildable structure that takes all the decision-making and all the difficult sort of structural challenges of a building out of their hands, and just say, here, just install all of this, that really helps streamline that process significantly. So I think those are the kind of conversations we need, our component manufacturers need to be having with their builders. Instead of trying to sell an individual product, it's selling that overall paradigm shift, and how they approach both the structural framing, but also how they price that.
And front-loading some of those questions about engineering is sometimes challenging, but it's gonna give you the ability to be flexible with your options, because you have all of those pieces coming together in one place. And that will really just give you, it may seem a little bit less efficient up front, but you're gonna save, tons and tons of time later on. So love to hear you talk about it and just give you your perspective. So thank you so much for sitting down with me and just sharing a little bit more about how we can improve the industry together.
Yeah, excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks for the time.